You know that feeling, right? You read an amazing book, you feel totally fired up, and then, a week later, absolutely nothing in your life has changed. We all live with that gap between knowing something is a good idea and actually doing it. Well, today we're going to look at a fascinating, real-world story about how one group decided to close that gap for good on one of the biggest ideas of all, compassion. Let's dive in. All right, here's our game plan. We'll start by really defining that pesky knowing-doing gap. Then we'll map out the journey from what's called an impure to a pure state. We'll see how treating compassion like a science is the key, look at a step-by-step action plan they created, and finally, break down the choice this leaves for every single one of us. So let's get right to the heart of the matter. This is that universal struggle of having all the information in the world, but still feeling stuck. Understanding, it turns out, is just not enough. Now, the group this explainer is based on had been studying compassion for over 20 years. I mean, they were experts. They had the knowing part down cold. But they had this huge realization. It was like having a PhD in swimming theory without ever actually getting in the pool. That disconnect became a crisis, and it sparked this incredible urgency to finally jump in the water and move from just knowing to actually doing. So to make that jump, they first had to get crystal clear on where they were starting from and where they wanted to end up. And they came up with these two really powerful ways to describe those states of being. The starting line is what they call the impure bodhisattva. And this is probably where most of us are, if we're being honest. This is someone who has the best intentions. They get the concept of compassion. They really want to be compassionate, but it's inconsistent. Those good intentions are all mixed up with our old programming. You know, the frustration, the little judgments, the selfishness, it all just kind of gets jumbled together. And the destination, the pure bodhisattva. For this person, compassion isn't something they have to remember to do. It's not a choice they make in the moment. They've practiced it so much, so consistently, that it's completely solidified. It's become their default setting, their automatic response. It's literally the only way they know how to operate in the world. Okay, so that's a pretty big leap, from impure to pure. How in the world do you build that bridge? Well, this is where their thinking took a really radical turn. They decided to stop treating compassion like some vague, fuzzy feeling and start treating it like a science. This one simple sentence changed everything for them. The idea here is that a true principle, just like a scientific law, has to produce real, tangible, verifiable results. So if you're practicing something, say a meditation or the idea of compassion, and your life isn't actually changing for the better, well, the theory isn't wrong. Your application of it is. The proof is in the results. And this led them to this brilliant side-by-side comparison. Look at this. Whether you're talking about Buddhist principles or hard science, the foundation is the same, cause and effect. The method is the same. It requires proof, not just blind faith. And the outcome has to be the same, verifiable, repeatable results. If you do X, you get Y, every time. And here's the bottom line from all of that. If compassion is a verifiable principle, then it's not just a nice idea or a warm feeling. It's a skill. And just like any other skill, whether it's learning piano or coding, it demands a plan, it demands practice, and it demands to be proven through real-world action. All right, so theory is one thing, but what does this scientific approach actually look like when the rubber meets the road? Let's check out the real-world project they built from this idea. They basically treated it like launching a startup. The mission was practice compassion, but they knew that to be effective, it couldn't just be an idea, it had to work within the real world's rules and regulations. So they narrowed their focus to a nonprofit aimed at easing suffering from illness. But here's the genius part. They weren't doctors, so instead of trying to be something they weren't, they found their perfect niche, taking existing, proven medical knowledge and making it accessible to everyday people. They turned a vague wish to help into a concrete, actionable, and incredibly useful mission. Now, of course, starting a project like this doesn't mean you magically become a pure bodhisattva on day one. Nope, the source material is super clear that this transformation is a slow, steady, and very deliberate process. I just love this analogy they use. They say the journey is like going from being a temporary worker to a permanent employee. Think about it. A temp is kind of just trying things out. Their performance might be inconsistent because they're still learning the ropes. But a permanent employee, they've mastered the job. They're reliable, they're consistent. The job has become part of their identity. That is the exact shift from trying to be compassionate to simply being compassion. So, how do you get that permanent job? You start small. The journey begins by dedicating just 1% of your energy, your thoughts, your words, your actions to this new skill. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to start. Chipping away at that massive 99% of old habits and replacing it with conscious, compassionate action, one tiny percent at a time. And this is where it leads. Through that steady daily practice, that 1% grows. It becomes 2%, then 10%, then 50%. It slowly but surely crowds out the old programming until one day, the old habit slice is just gone. You've earned the permanent position. Compassion is now 100% of who you are. So, we've covered the problem, the goal, the whole method. But the biggest question remains, why even bother with all this? The source puts the stakes in really stark personal terms. Ultimately, this isn't about being a good person or following some abstract rulebook. It boils down to a direct choice between two completely different ways to live your life. You can keep letting your life be run by affliction, the constant worry, the frustration, the resentment, and just stay stuck in that loop. Or you can choose joy. You can choose to purposefully train your own mind and discover amazingly that the happiness you've been searching for is found right there inside the practice itself. It's a choice for a better now and a better tomorrow. And this is the final instruction, the ultimate goal, to take this practice so seriously, to be so incredibly consistent with it, that this new skill becomes your deepest instinct, to solidify compassion so completely that when life throws something at you, it's just the only thing you know how to do. And that really brings it all home. This whole journey, from impure to pure, starts by closing that little gap between what you know and what you do. So I'll leave you with this question. Forget the grand sweeping changes for a minute. What is one small thing you already know is the right thing to do that you can turn into one small action, right now, today?